We are all empathic. And the thing is, because we're energy beings and we truly allow ourselves to, when we're in other people's energy, whether we want to or not, we take it on.
We are very much energy and spirit first. That this body that you see, this is just a disguise. This is not who you are.
For me, my energy is my attention, my emotions, my nervous system capacity, my time, my life force. And they say that where your attention goes, your energy flows.
Being able to have those opportunities of being able to tune into what it is that we're feeling and realize that like our body is putting out that energy, and how can we shift that energy back in? We're allowed to feel angry, we're allowed to feel all the emotions, but what are we doing with it? Are we just stuffing it? Are we dealing with it? Are we being explosive?
Even in business now, when people talk to me, I say, guys, it's all about healing and energy. Your business model should be based on energy and looking after ourselves.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. But before we dive into today's Wisdom Circle, I have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or support you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you so much for walking this path with us, and let us begin with today's conversation. Welcome to another incredible Wisdom Circle that I'm really excited about this one, because we're learning now and discussing how to protect our energy, the art of sovereignty and spiritual self-defense. That, of course, I'm Sophia from Sacred You, and we have the honor, the really, truly honor of presenting today's Wisdom Circle. But more importantly, I want to hand it over to the beautiful Catherine CRESTANI, who's facilitating her very first Wisdom Circle. Thank you, Catherine. To introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about this whole topic, why you chose it, before we go on all these other amazing women who are joining us from different parts of the world today. So thank you, Catherine. And I will be back at the end. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Sophia. And so, yes, so my name's Catherine CRESTANI. I'm an inner authority guide and a writer and speaker on conscious leadership and human potential, which is a really beautiful way of summarizing how to listen to your intuition and step into the highest version of you. But the reason this topic is so near and dear to me is because with everyone I work with, we all have this level of empathy. Everyone will say that, oh no, I'm empathic, but we are all empathic. And the thing is, because we're energy beings, we all have this connection with other people, and we truly allow ourselves to, as energetic beings, when we're in other people's energy, whether we want to or not, we take it on. And so very early on in my spiritual journey, I didn't actually realize I used to take on everyone else's pain. So I would feel other people's pain. I would go to a party and I would put it down to I drank something that was bad or I ate the wrong food, rather than it was actually just my body having a full visceral response to all the energy in the room, but also other people's pain from possibly drinking too much or needing to throw up or whatever it might be. And then as I stepped more into my spiritual journey and learned how to turn that off, I actually felt like myself again. And spiritual hygiene is something that I find a lot of people overlook. They forget to see that part of their daily routine as actually, I need to look after my spiritual hygiene. I need to check in on my energy and I need to see what's going on. And if you're someone who has mediumship abilities, when mine came online, three people said to me in the space of a week, you need to go put contracts in place so they don't show up all the time. I was like, nah, I'll be fine. I know better. But clearly I didn't. I had to go up and put these beautiful contracts in place, because anyone that knows that you're open and you're able to pass on a message when they have passed, they rock up at your door, they see the neon shining light like you're open, and they come right on in. So this is to me why it's so important, because when we don't clear our energy, we end up giving up our sovereignty, but also we end up leaving our energy with other people, which stops us from being truly who we want to be and having enough energy to move forward. So I've got these beautiful ladies here today, and we're going to have a beautiful discussion around what practices we use, why this is shown up in your life. So I'm going to get you all to introduce yourself, and I'm going to go in the order on my screen. But as you introduce yourself, I would love to know, what was the point in your life that you realized you needed to protect your energy, not out of fear, but to empower yourself and pull your power back? So Rollie, would you like to go first? And I can't say your other name, so go for it.
So Gigajo Migunkwe is my spirit name, which means talking feather woman. I work with women with anxiety using holistic practices that allows me to bring in cycles. So using the moon cycles, using the energies, using crystals, essential oils, all the different things that are bound that make up the energy. And I'm in a small community in northeastern Ontario, Canada, and I am always excited to connect with women from around the world. And I'm glad to see that Abby's here as well, so fellow Canadian, because for a little bit I was like the only non-Australian on the call. But just being able to have that connection and having that ability of being able to connect to the energies that are around us and using those to our advantage, to the way to being able to help us function and connect and being able to, yeah. So I will turn it back over
Beautiful.
to
Yeah,
Kat.
and I so agree, because when we aren't in control of our energy, then it makes it harder to connect. It makes it harder to go at that deeper level with ourselves, with everybody around us. And then for me, I know personally learning about my human design was really powerful, because I learned that my thing that I wasn't in alignment was frustration. So if I felt bitterness, that's what my husband and my son feel. So I would realize I was picking up on their energy rather than my own. And I was like, oof, I don't want that. Let's deflect that. Let's give that back to them. So then it allows me to connect with them better too, because I know why they're not in alignment. So this is where learning all these things can be so powerful. And Sallyann, you're next on my screen.
Thank you very much for that, Catherine. It's nice to be here today, and thank you very much. I've been working for a very long time and very passionate about spiritual growth and supporting people on their spiritual journeys, and eventually set up Elevating Consciousness to try and assist people to remember who they are. Like, we are very much energy and spirit first. That this body that you see, this is just a disguise. This is not who you are. This is just a disguise. So I help people remember who they truly are. And I do that through a whole bag of different techniques that I've accumulated over the years. I'm a qualified counselor, a quantum consciousness facilitator, accredited meditation teacher, Reiki master practitioner, a whole lot of different modalities. And so when I work with people, I work with people one-on-one, and I just support them in remembering who they are and connecting back into their gifts. So their journey that they've chosen to have in the human form can be a little easier for them and a little more supportive for them. And so my passion is just helping people remember who they are. And I offer each Saturday fortnight a totally free of charge group called Circles of Light, where people can come together, and I introduce a technique that helps them remember their light. And so that's out there on offer. But yeah, just help people individually on their journey, because it's not easy being here at the moment. We get knocked about, and I just love the idea of this podcast today, because we need techniques and we need strategies to be able to protect ourselves energetically as we navigate this human journey. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you and welcome, Sally. Yeah, it's always fun trying to navigate this human journey. My guides say to me, just remember you're a boring human and you have to learn how to navigate this life. But is anything far from boring? But that's such a beautiful offering that you have as well. So a big welcome, Bron. Did you want to introduce yourself and just share why this topic is important to you or where it came to play in your life?
First of all, thank you for having me, guys. And I'm here a little bit differently, I think, to you, to some other people, in the fact that I learnt the hard way. in terms of understanding spiritual defense. And yeah, so backstory is I'm a business educator and I'm an entrepreneur. I've been a business owner for 14 years and I've had not one but two diagnoses of cancer. One was a curable breast cancer and the other has been an incurable blood cancer. Not related, but we'll work on that another day. So throughout all of that situation, I realised the hard way that you amazing people already know of the importance of this work for ourselves. So for the last 3 years, this is exactly what I've been doing for myself. And from there, I've created a community. It's called the Serenity Project. And it's for people going through cancer, their carers, their friends and beyond. Because I call it the third space because it's the gap between the science and the soul with evidence and perspective. Because let's hope that other people don't have to have such a massive brick thrown through the back of their head. I'd rather just a nice feather, as our beautiful Rollie talks about. Let's go with the feathers, people. So that's how I'm here, and this learned experience and just the learnings and the continued lessons that I'm learning, and just so open to just experiencing more of this, because even in business now, when people talk to me, I say, guys, it's all about healing and energy. Your business model should be based on energy and looking after ourselves. So that's how I got here, and it's just this interesting space. So I'm very fascinated to hear a lot more from you guys. And as I said, I'm probably more your clients than anything, but as I said, it's just been an amazing experience and I'm so grateful for it.
Thank you for bringing a fresh perspective, Bron, because it's always nice having different perspectives, and we're all here for a reason. And it's really interesting you bring up being thrown feathers or bricks, because I was on another wisdom circle earlier this week, and that's what we talk about. Do you want the universe to throw bricks at you, or would you prefer the feather option? And how does that show up? And Abby was there as well, right? We were talking about bricks and feathers. So I love that this has come up again in this analogy. And this is what it feels like. If you don't protect your energy, it can feel like a ton of bricks is being thrown at you, and it can compromise your health. And especially as spiritual and light workers, or in any field, if you don't look after your inner workings, like your mental health, your physical health, and your spiritual health, it can have long-term effects. So thank you for bringing that perspective in, Bron. I truly honor that. And beautiful Abby, welcome. I'm glad to be in a space with you again. Would you like to introduce yourself to everybody and let them know why protecting and deflecting your energy is so important?
Yeah, definitely. I'm so excited. And just with these introductions, it's already been so juicy. I'm Abigail TEIXEIRA, and I'm hailing in from Treaty 6 territory on Turtle Island, which is also known as Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I'm a speaker, I'm a writer, I'm a trauma recovery guide, and a feminine leadership mentor. And most importantly, I am a mama of 4 beautiful little beings. And I support cycle-breaking women, especially Black, Indigenous women of color, who are mothers, healers, creatives, really move out of survival and into embodied leadership. And I do this by creating spaces where they can show up fully as themselves with their truth, their grief, their wisdom, to be seen and then to be transformed. And why this topic is important for me, and why, I guess first and foremost, defining what energy means. And for me, my energy is my attention, my emotions, my nervous system capacity, my time, my life force. And they say that where your attention goes, your energy flows. And I think that for many of us, we have been conditioned to leak energy through various forms, such as people pleasing, overgiving, hypervigilance. And for me, what that created was burnout, so much so to the point of being hospitalized in 2024. And so I had to learn through bricks rather than feathers to really be alert and pay attention where my energy was going, and was I being a wise steward of it, right? And at that point in time, I wasn't. And so I had to learn how to be able to steward that in a way so that I would avoid burnout consistently. And it's a work in progress, because these are patterns and conditioning that many of us have developed throughout our lifetimes. And so I always talk to my clients about this, where just like these patterns didn't happen overnight, they're not going to be resolved or fixed overnight either. And so that's why I think it's really important to have these kind of conversations, so that first you realize that you're not alone. And second, that there are ways in which we can learn to, steward that precious, valuable energy that so many of us have, so that we can actually do the work that we're meant to do in the world in a really beautiful, open and expansive way.
100%. And if we can't be open and expansive, then it restricts us and it stops us from shining our light and showing up and attracting who needs to find us and attracting who needs to be in our world and our space. And so thank you, Abby. Beautiful insight there as well. And this is, if anyone's tuning in, this doesn't mean if you're not working in spiritual practices, this is still just as important. So I have the extremes. I have a client and she works with black magic and curses and removing them off people, and she still needs maintenance to help her energy stay clear, even though she has her own protections in place. But then I have other clients who are just mums or yoga instructors or whatever it might be, and they still need support keeping their energy in place too, because as you brought up being a mum of four as well, being a mum can be really draining. And if we don't have our cup full, then it makes it really hard to support everyone around us. And I know we've all been through that moment where we just feel completely empty and we still have to feel that we have to keep giving. And this can be like a really beautiful time that we introduce these practices. But if you're in crisis, it makes it really hard to put these into habits. When you're in a good space, this is a beautiful time to explore what aligns for you and see what you need to do to keep your energy clear. So for me, I always do a little bit of yoga every morning to ground my body because I prefer to stay up here. My body's like, I want to go up and hang out in that spirit realm a little bit longer, but it helps me ground in and connect in with nature because I'm surrounded by beautiful bush and connecting with myself, but also doing a practice where I call back in my soul. So I actually speak aloud. I call back in all parts of my soul, past, present, future, parallel, from all dimensions, timelines, and universes, so I can be fully present in the moment. And I have found that has been really powerful because often we leave our little energy snippets everywhere that we go. When we meditate, we might forget to pull our energy back. If we go through trauma, our soul actually leaves our body for a little bit, and then we need to call it back in. And these are protection mechanisms that we already have in place. But I would love to hear any daily rituals that anyone does because there's so many and it can be overwhelming. But I feel if we all share from our own perspective, that'd be really powerful. So, Rollie, would you like to share first?
I would just, I love how the universe comes back and smacks us sometimes. So in terms of like daily rituals, had this conversation last week, I would have said my daily practices are like just obsolete. There's not really a whole lot of things that I'm doing on my daily practices. So one of the things that I have rekindled in the last 3 days is that every night before going to bed is that I call in Reiki energy. So I call in that Reiki energy to be able to do my own self Reiki, and then, but at the same time, allowing it to flow wherever it is that it needs to go. So my clients, my friends, my family all know that somewhere around 10 p.m. Eastern time that I call in Reiki energy, and so if they want it or if they want to be able to ask for someone else, then I put that out. So that is one of the things that is one of my daily practices that I stepped away from and been able to like shift back in. And I generally have my crystals around in different places, but I haven't been like carrying them around with me all the time like I have. And so just being able to get back into those practices, and because going back to the whole theme of this conversation is about protecting our energy. And so by me not making sure that I'm doing that self-healing and that I'm doing the things that I need to be doing to take care of myself that way, makes a huge difference. And so we have lots of things going on in our lives, and so there's lots of shifting, there's lots of different things that are happening, and they're positive things. They're really amazing things, but keeps us busy in terms of what it is that's happening. But at the same time, when you stop your own practices, you feel it. And so when I'm like, oh my gosh, I really have to get back into doing the daily Reiki and calling in Reiki energy every day, was that I was changing the litter box and my hips just kept like giving out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so and that was just from squatting and like changing the litter box. And it's like, what is happening? Like my body is telling me something. And so it's just that reminder of, okay, what are you doing to take care of your own self, your own being, your own, like you're taking care of everybody else and everything else that needs to be going on around you. And what are you doing to preserve that healing and the things that I need to be doing for myself? And so 3 days ago, I started again. And so that's where I'm at and going to be able to continue. As soon as we can get rid of all these snowstorms, I'm going to be able to start doing walking again as well so that I can get back into nature. I can't even get out into my yard because it's just like great big huge snowbanks. And so just being able to like just get back into going back and connecting. And as Catherine knows, I bring my laptop outside and I do calls in my flower bed and really stay grounded. So those are some other daily practices that I do when it's not winter. And so as we're moving along that way, but yeah, just really important for me to be able to remind myself. And like I said, had we've had that conversation last week, I would have been like, I'm not doing any daily practices anymore. So I love how the universe says, hey, what's going on? And reminds you of what it is that you need to be doing. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that human perspective, because sometimes we do fall off the wagon. Life is busy. Sometimes we get up and we're like, oh my goodness, I slept in and I have to get my child fed and I have to do this and I have to do this and I have to get out the door. And then we forget. And they're the days that we feel the constant turmoil flowing through because our energy is already scattered. And welcome back. I'm glad you're back into your practices, Rollie. And I love that you also brought up crystals, because I love working with crystals. I wear crystals. I use crystals as amulets, which is a whole other discussion. But at the same time, there are so many things around us that we can use to help our person space, but like also the space that we live in, and connecting back to nature. Don't underestimate grounding, hugging a tree, all those fun things when you can, when you're not surrounded by feet of snow. Just really they don't have to be complicated. Like you said, going for a walk, that can be enough to restore your energy. If you can do it barefoot, that's even more amazing. So how can you connect back with yourself, and what is a practice that aligns with you that way? And beautiful Sallyann, what are some daily practices that you might be using?
Oh, thank you so much, Catherine. Firstly, in the morning, doesn't happen every morning, but I endeavour to make time. When I first wake up, I just stay in bed and give gratitude. And I think gratitude is a big thing that's so important, to appreciate what we have and be grateful for it, because that in itself helps raise our vibration. It also helps bring us back into our heart center and into heart coherence. Then, before going any further, before I forget, I think it's so important to have plants around the house. Plants and crystals, I think, really help with the energy. And I try, not every day, but most days, to get out in nature. I spend some time on the beach when I can, walking on the beach, stopping and just connecting with the ocean, with the elements on the beach, having quiet time, to be open that what might come in. And also in the morning when I'm doing my practice, when I first wake up, connect in with the light and bring in the light, because we are from the light. And so just connecting into that. And because I think one of the issues is sometimes we can feel disconnected and lost, and particularly when there's a lot of heaviness in the environment like there is at the moment. And in saying that, I never watch the news. I don't even know whether my telly works on commercial channels anymore, actually. I think it's important to be mindful of what we take in. Pardon me, for example, with a lot of what's being presented through the media at the moment, that can be jarring for our energy fields, because we are energy, very much energy first and physical second. So I'm very mindful of what I take in. So I like to get out in the environment, go spend time in the ocean. Being around water is very beneficial to help balancing the emotional body. So being around water, if not water, yeah, hugging a tree is great. If you can't get the water, lying on the ground. Often, if I'm on Zoom, particularly if I'm on a long time span on the computer, I will go out and lie on the front lawn and just ground with the earth and just ground back in. I think that's very helpful. I think another thing that's really important is energetic discernment. Okay, what's mine, what's not mine? And being aware that if we are taking on something, how did I feel before I interacted with this person? Is that mine or is that theirs? And then being mindful of environments that you go into. If you're going into an environment where the energy may be a bit of a lower vibration, just put a bubble around yourself. There's many techniques you can use for this. White bubble. If you do Reiki, you can use Reiki symbols. Put a cloak around yourself with velvet on the inside, reflective material on the outside. Ask your guides to be with you. and to deflect any negative energies. And then each night before I go to bed, I have a ritual where what I do is I call back all energy that is lost, stolen, or given away, call that back to me. And I also delete all cords, hooks, attachments, and send them out away and be taken up into the universe and disposed of safely. I do all that as well. And I think it's just energetic discernment, if is another thing, just being where you put yourself, as I mentioned earlier, what you watch, what you choose to watch, what environments you put yourself in, energetic discernment, because it's really important to remember that we are energetic beings first, and disharmony in our environment then becomes disharmony in the energy field, which then can become disharmony in the body. And so it's really important to look at our environments and just what is appropriate for us and what is not appropriate. And we have the right, the total right to say, no, I feel uncomfortable in this environment. I'm not going to be in this environment. And remove yourself from that environment and remove yourself from toxic people. That's not okay. Just, and be mindful of that. And just if you're feeling out of sorts, like if you suddenly start feeling agitated, uneasy, nervy, weighed down, they're possible signs that you have some energetic interference. So if you cannot clear that yourself, just ask for support in clearing that. So I think we need to be our own energetic guardians of our being and just energetically guard ourselves, because if we are not looking after ourselves energetically, we can't be effective. And it's almost a bit like when you hop on an airplane, if you're running around looking after everybody else and fitting their oxygen mask if the oxygen comes down without looking after you first, if you're dead on the floor, you're no good to anybody. So it's about caring for ourselves first so we can actively care for others. It's not about, that's not selfish. That just makes pure common sense. If we look after ourselves first, we can then care for our families and our loved ones. So thank you, Catherine.
Wow, there's so much to unpack there. There's so many golden nuggets. So first of all, I love that you said it's not selfish. My old coach used to call it self-full. You know, you're not being selfish, you're being self-full, because you need to fill up your cup before you can support anybody else. And like you said, we don't want to be lying on the ground dead with our oxygen mask hanging next to us because we just forgot about us. And even I think it was the start of last year, I got the message, don't run to the fire, let the fire come to you. Because so often I would run in to help and support people and I'd forget about my own energy in that. And then the other aspect I love that you brought up is energy discernment, because it is so important that we check in. Is this actually our stuff happening, or is it somebody else's? Because when we forget to check in that and discern, then we can take on everybody else's things too. And I learned, because I shared at the start, when I take on everybody else's energy, and this can be linked to the nice girl or nice boy syndrome that Abby brought up earlier, and wanting to people please as well, because we're too worried about everyone else's energy that we forget about our own in that aspect as well. And something I learned that was really cool that came through from my friend when we were learning how to discern if it was our energy, it's like, is this mine or is this someone else's? So just listen and feel, is it a yes? Is it no? Do I need to do anything with it if it's not mine? And if it's, you don't need to do anything with it, you can just say, thank you, I release this now. And that's enough. We don't always have to sit there and figure out how to solve the problem. It's not necessarily ours to solve. Sometimes it's enough just to observe it and let it go. And like you said, clear the hooks, clear the attachments, clear the cords, and keep moving on with your life. And I also love that you brought up where you put your energy as well, because it is important. People don't realize what we listen to is playing on our subconscious. What we watch is playing on our subconscious. All these things are designed to imprint us. Even I was having this chat with my son this morning. He's like, why can't I read your novel, Mum? I said, because it's not appropriate for you. He's like, why not? And I was like, because you're not old enough for it yet. You know, it's not for you. And he's, but you wrote it and I can't read it. That's not fair. I said, you can read it when you're older. I said, but your mind will just keep playing on the things that are happening. You can't discern the difference too. So this is where we can model this for our children too, and teach them the good energetic discernment, and teach the little humans so they don't have to go through what we've been through. Thank you, Sallyann.
Thank you.
And Bron, what are some daily practices, or I feel like you would have so many, especially working your Serenity Circle as well.
I do look great. Thank you. So I'm going to take you back to the time in February 2023 when I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. So I would sit out the back. So I couldn't speak to anyone because I didn't have the answers they wanted. I didn't have them for me, and I was in free fall trauma. And I would sit out the back looking into nature, into the trees, and going, please, God, please, universe, please help me. And in terms of time. And through that time, that's when I realized that I'd met a woman called Kerry Chino many years before, and I don't even know her correct title. I call her an energy healer. I don't know if that's what she really is, but that's what she is to me. I don't know what the right name is. And it's from that moment in time that I have started to learn, and I say it a lot, which is be where your feet are, because in trauma and in times of crisis or even beyond, when you're actually getting over these things, for me, I'm only talking for me, guys, is to be where your feet are. So ritual for me is that every single day I will go outside into nature. So I live on 5 acres. So I look at those trees that were guiding me. And I have a little mantra that I've put together, because all of the things you guys talk about with what your clients have, that was me and still parts of me. So my mantra is around the gratitude. I say I'm so grateful and I'm open for unexpected miracles, and then the next part goes, and I'm aligned with ease and grace, and I'm open for unexpected joy. Please show me that I'm on the right path, which means for me, it was letting go of the control, because back in the day, Bron would be going, cool, I want to do this and this. Now this is how I'm going to do it. Whereas now, when I go be where my feet are, and I say to the words, I know I will, but I don't know how. So I'm giving away that control and allowing the universe, source, to help guide me, and allowing the space. Like for someone who wasn't there and is now there, I think the quieter I get, the little voice, I can hear it. So it's just that for me, that's how I have my rituals. That's just one of them. I have many, but that's one of them, especially when I'm looking for, we don't want to look back and we don't want to look forward, because projection, like, it hasn't happened. So that's why I go be where my feet are. And I say that small mantra to myself to bring me back to going, Bron, you don't need to control everything.
Amen.
It's bad habit, and I'm so grateful I'm learning to break it.
But I feel you bring up such a beautiful point too, Bron, because when we're fully present, you can't worry. Worry is when you're projecting into the future, and you can't sit there and reminisce on regret. So when you can be fully present and be where your feet are, that is such a powerful practice. And bringing in that gratitude and bringing in that being open to receive, because so often we ask for things and then we forget to open ourselves to allow energy in, because so often we're too busy closing off and fighting all the things around us that we forget to be open for those unexpected miracles. So thank you so much for sharing that beautiful ritual and that reminder as well of being where your feet are. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm going to have
I
that
hope it
in
helped.
my head. 100%, 100%. And Abby, busy mom, lots of things happening, lots of trauma you have to sort through with everyone around you. What are some beautiful daily practices that you have or that you encourage others to have?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of you took the words out of what I was going to share. So there's a lot of deep alignment there. But I can't talk about energy without talking about our nervous system and how that plays into things. I know for me, it's the first line of defense, right? And so my body will often tell me before my mind does, right? So I'll experience things like contraction, right? Rather than expansion, safety versus misalignment. And so it's not really necessarily energetic, but it isn't just energetic, it's also physiological. And so some signs and signals that I've now grown to learn about and notice when I'm feeling drained is like the exhaustion that I feel after certain interactions, certain people, certain environments, that kind of a thing. Tightness, anxiety, overthinking, abandoning my needs. So overriding what my body is very viscerally telling me and then just pushing through. We're all so good at pushing through. And so a simple practice that I do when I start to feel that nervous system dysregulation is that I pause. So I'll just pause, and it could be anywhere. It could be in the middle of the kitchen, and I start to feel these kind of things, and especially around my kids. So I will model this to them. I'll pause, and then I'll notice, and then I'll name. So mommy's feeling very overwhelmed right now. I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'll be right back. I'm going to go outside and get some fresh air, or things like that. Or I'll say something to myself like, my body is my compass. I'm no longer overriding it just to belong. And it's so powerful when we name things and then almost like redirect that energy depletion or that nervous system dysregulation to something that is more grounding. And then aside from that, a lot of the things that many of you talked about, things like grounding, like physical grounding. I love nature. It is one of the things that I have that has deeply restored my connection to self, my connection to others. And so in the summertime, I'm the same way as Rollie. I will be outside. I will take meetings outside on my, like in my patio or my deck, and just like hearing the birds, like all of those kind of like sensory things are just so beautiful for me. Clearing. So I do a lot of energetic clearing with using like smoke. So smoke medicine. I love showers for like water clearing. Baths. I'll take Epsom salt baths and I'll actually physically with the salt rub my body and say, I'm getting rid of this, or this doesn't belong to me, and all of that kind of stuff. And something that many of you talked about was calling back our energy, right, at the end of the day. And it's very simple. Like I call my energy back, cleanse and restored. Not everything is mine to carry, hold, or heal. Because like I think for many of us, especially me as a mom, and I do healing work and all of that kind of stuff, it could be very easy to start carrying all these things that are just not mine for me to carry anymore or hold. They're actually a detriment to me. And then the last thing I'll mention is just discernment, which I think Sallyann brought up. So important to discern, what I'm learning is that discerning who has access to me, what aligns, what's draining me, right? And it's that muscle of discernment, building that really builds self-trust to the place where you start to really understand who you are, what are the things that are stealing away from you, all of that kind of stuff, and what are the things that really replenish you, and what do you need in those moments, right? And yeah, just really beautiful discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think again, discernment is so powerful because it's aligning with your truth. And this is where people often get lost because we get stuck in everyone else's stories, everyone else's energy, and everyone else's noise. And we forget to come back to ourselves. And I also love that you name it for your children. I need to pause because I'm overwhelmed. I don't know, I got brought up in that generation where we don't talk about our feelings. They just get smushed. I think we all have. We don't talk about how we're feeling. We just have to put on the mask and be okay with it and show up even when we're angry and show up when, we're sad and put this front on. Whereas children are little emotional radars. And if you want to learn how energy works really well, watch children. If you are a teacher or someone that works with children, you walk into that room and you're having a bad day, they will know. They just feel it and they will amp up to make your bad day even worse. And I used to teach, as my background as a speech language pathologist working with children, that was the first thing I would teach my students or new staff was check your emotions at the door. Let them be. We have to just step out of them for a minute. But it's okay if you're overwhelmed, take that moment for yourself. But at the same time, don't carry that because these kids will feel that. And that's when you have the meltdown days. I would say I worked with a lot of children with autism. It would be meltdown after meltdown. I can tell you by the end of the day, having 16 children who are all melting down, it was big because they could feel my energy and they could sense what was happening. If you're not sure what your energy is doing, see how your children or the little people around you, your grandchildren, the little humans, are reflecting it back to you because they will reflect it back, I promise, and they will turn up the volumes. And I also love that you brought up in your body because so often we ignore the signs in our body and our body, it doesn't lie. For me, I know if my liver's out, I'm like, oh, what anger am I really suppressing at this moment? Like, why am I really angry? And how am I going to get this out? And how am I going to meet the energy of the anger as well? Because that's the other aspect. Saying I'm angry is not going to do the same thing as I'm angry and punching something and getting really angry, because sometimes we need to shift that energy that quickly. And we are very blessed at the moment to be in this energy as a consciousness, as a collective, where we're able to just feel it, observe it, and let it go. We don't have to go digging into the origin as much anymore. We don't have to dig and pull it all out. We're in this beautiful space where we can let things go. So I would love to open up the floor if anyone has any examples of where they just had to truly feel that energy, and that was enough and it was done. Rollie's ready.
I am. So I ended up standing up because it was like, I was sitting here and it was like, oh, that tightness in my hips that I was just talking about. It's like, why am I still sitting? And so I've been moving. So hopefully that's not distracting to people, but I'm listening to my own body and doing the things that I need to be doing for me. But like when you guys were talking and Abby and Catherine, when you were talking about like kids and like the things that they show us is just absolutely incredible. And so I live with my grandchildren. I have a 3-year-old grandson and an 11-month-old granddaughter, and we have an 11-month-old preemie that is also staying with us. And the one day I came downstairs and nobody cleaned the kitchen. I was like, okay, seriously, like I left the kitchen clean before I went to bed last night, and this morning I wake up to a disaster in my kitchen. And so then when I come down and my grandson's like, Nookum, why are you angry? And it was just so funny because, and it wasn't funny, it was, but it was like we've been working with him at being able to recognize emotions. And he said, why are you angry, Nookum? Because that's not something that I express with him typically. And so I said, thanks for noticing that I'm feeling angry, but I said I'm feeling very frustrated that the kitchen's a mess. So I'm just going to clean it so that we can finish getting ready to have breakfast this morning. But the other thing that he's done is that he's into that 3-year-old, like really not sure where to regulate his emotions. And so when the babies cry, so we've got 2 11-month-olds. And so when the babies cry, one of the things that he does, and he goes over and he puts his hand on their chest and says, breathe. And then he demonstrates how to breathe for them. And so it's like, take a breath, do it with me, take a breath. And it was like, oh my gosh, like this baby who is teaching these other babies how to be able to like help them figure out how to self-regulate and help them figure out how to shift and tune into what it is that's going on. And the day that he put his hand on one of the baby's chests, I can't remember if it was his sister or if it was Leah, but he put his hand on their chest. It was like, oh my gosh, like he not only is getting it, he is like feeling it, and he knows where exactly is that those emotions that he's carrying. And it's just absolutely amazing to be able to see how that happens. And that is that reminder of being able to voice my opinion, being able to share what it is that I'm feeling, and being able to say, come on, guys, like this is not okay. We're 4 adults with 3 babies in the house. We need to make sure that everybody is able to cooperate and work together and do the things that we need to be doing so that this can actually be cohesive while we're waiting for renovations to be done and all that fun stuff. But it's just being able to have those opportunities of being able to tune into what it is that we're feeling, and being able to realize that like our body is putting out that energy, and how can we shift that energy back in. We're allowed to feel angry, we're allowed to feel all the emotions. Coming from a background in mental health, those are one of the things that I'm always reminding people is it's okay for us to have those emotions, but what are we doing with it? Are we just stuffing it? Are we dealing with it? Are we being explosive? How are we actually handling it so that we can actually then dissipate it and get rid of that energy? And I think that's one of the things that you shared, Catherine, is like just being able to like leave it at the door. Like, how do we actually, and leaving it at the door doesn't mean not addressing it, because that is also something else for us to be able to remember as well, is that it's so important for us to not just dismiss it and not address those emotions and say what we feel, mean what we say, and those kinds of things. And so it's just really important for us to be able to like tune in. What do we know? What is it that's going on? What is it that's happening? There are situations within my own community that there's a lot of people who are experiencing cancer and or their family members are experiencing cancer, and there's so many things that are actually going on. And that seems to be, and I just love the fact that, Bron, you and I need to connect, because I want to be able to connect them to you and your group, because I think that's really important for us to be able to recognize that there's so many things that are going on, and how do we shift that and pay attention to what it is that's happening, and that we're not getting drawn in and sucked in to other people's narrative. And so just being able to remember that we are our own person, we can put ourselves in whatever situations that we need to, but at the same time we can also take ourselves out of those situations where we need to as well, and or be able to set limits and boundaries around what it is that's happening. So yeah, so there's my soapbox.
No, amazing. And I had tears in my eyes when you were saying what your grandson was doing, because how different would our world be if everyone knew how to manage their nervous system and regulate their energy that early on, like a 3. And this is what I always say to my clients, if I can teach a child to do it, like a really young child to do this, there's no excuse for you not doing it as well. Like I taught a child, he was 16 with autism spectrum, just very black and white. I taught him how to meditate, despite him going, I can't visualize anything. And his meditations were so powerful and so quick because he just got to the point. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so much. And so this is what I say to people, oh, I don't know how to do that. I was like, if I could teach this child to do that, that was technically not meant to be able to do that, then what is stopping you? What are these visions that we put in place to actually stop us believing that we can shift things too? And like you said, Rollie, getting stuck in other people's beliefs of us or other people's stories that don't necessarily play out how we want them to play out too. Does anyone else have any other beautiful examples of where they've just gone, nah, this is it. This is not mine, or I'm clearing this now and I'm letting it be done?
If it's okay, I can share a little thing around that. And it was when it comes to health, and specifically, I'll just refer to a chronic disease or cancer or something like that. When you get sucked into the hamster wheel of medicine as it stands, as one silo of many ways of looking after ourselves, I call it the vortex of fear because it's fear-based. I feel it's fear-based for me. And being the person who's been on the patient's side, so being the nurse standing there for 30 odd years, and then now being the patient, I have that's a very clear perspective of how that rolls. And so one thing that I have and do for myself, oh, look, there he is. Hi, darling. Is that the best story ever, having a 3-year-old do that? Wow, I've got 5 sons. And it's okay. And I think that, hi, darling. I just have to say hi. Hi. Sorry, I got distracted. And yeah, so where I go with that is that now I talk about being, I'm the Bron of CEO. I'm the CEO of Bron. So I am now the boss of myself. And that might sound weird to you guys who really have learned that. But for me, I'm not. I'm very much an advocate for being an active participant in care and not a passive bystander. So with that obviously comes courage. And courage and strength don't always go, it's not something you can just automatically have. So I believe it's something that you can learn. So when it comes to these boundaries and how we're moving, it can be learnt. It can all be learned. And who's on your executive committee? So on my executive committee, I have Kerry. I have this beautiful doctor that I've met from Brazil who's just this incredible human who wants to look at the whole person. And my specialists, they're here. They're down the bottom of my they're not even on the executive committee. They're on the committee, but they're not. So we collectively make the decisions around what we do and what we don't do energetically, but also physiologically, because Abby, as you're talking with what you were saying about the body, absolutely. But when you're in that vortex, you're struggling. You can't feel a lot. So I like to say, I just walk around the rim. And sometimes I fall in and sometimes I don't. But I'm literally visualizing myself walking around this machine that I just take the parts I need and I leave the rest. But I also have this incredible, all this other stuff. What you ladies are doing is just So important when it comes to healing cancer. When I say healing, I'm not saying curing. Everyone does not get an opportunity for curing, but every single person gets a chance to go on the healing path. So thank you guys for being you, because it means the world to me and my community.
Thank you for being you. But I love that you brought up that you're the CEO. And it was funny because someone said to me a little while ago, God is your boss, so why wouldn't your boss want the best for you? Why wouldn't God want your abundance? And why wouldn't God want you to have the best life? Like, why do you feel that? And I love that you have an executive committee as well, because I've had people call it the dream team, people call it that community of support. But when you're not in crisis, that's the time you collect these people, because you're not in a reactive state. You're more in a, I want to expand state. So when the crisis does happen, Bron, you can call up Gary or you can call up whoever it is. And that is such a beautiful analogy of what you're saying. And in the end, we are all the bosses of our own life. And it's, I say to people, you have to wake up and look at yourself in the mirror every day. What are the choices you're going to make? So that is a happy reflection. Yeah.
And when comes awareness, when you have awareness also brings responsibility. So I think that's exactly what you're saying with being, you are the boss and you're also responsible.
100%. And accountable. So this is the thing too. If you're someone that always blames or always tries to put, oh, this isn't happening because of this or that sort of thing, you are actually not being responsible and accountable for your own energy. You're trying to deflect it onto somebody else. And that is when you're not realizing that you are creating your reality, because your internal energy and what's happening on the inside is creating what's happening on the outside. And Abby.
Yeah, I just love the conversation about kids, because in my experience, in my journey, my greatest teachers in all areas of my life have been my children. And as somebody who I've claimed the stake that I am a cycle breaker and I'm doing things differently than what was done in my lineage and all of that kind of stuff, I'm in this very delicate and very complex process of parenting while reparenting myself. And the things that I am learning, I'm learning alongside with my kids. And that includes emotional regulation and nervous system safety and all of that kind of stuff. And I want to share a brief story with my daughter. So my oldest is a girl, and then I have three boys after her. But we just have such a special little bond. And I think you spoke on this, Catherine, about human design. I'm like obsessed with human design. And it's something that has changed a lot of things in my world. And my kids, my old daughter, for example, she's a manifesting generator. And then my other kids we're all energy beings, basically. And how I describe to them about their energy, I always explain to them how when they go to sleep, they recharge their batteries, basically, right? Their energy. And so when they have good, long, restful sleep, they wake up with a fully charged battery. And then the goal is throughout the day is to basically use up that energy so that then they can fall asleep faster and all of that kind of stuff. And so on Tuesday, my daughter had cheer, and then it's always in the evening. So she has a full day of school, and then she comes home, she has a quick meal, and then she heads over to cheer. And when we were driving home, and I was like, how is your energy feeling? And I'm like, if your battery is full when it's green, that if it's yellow, that means it's halfway full. And if it's red, that means like it's almost empty, right? She's, I think it's about yellow right now. And I was like, okay, so what do you think is going to help you to refresh that energy before you go to bed? And then she's, I think I'm going to color when I get home, and I'm going to play with my dolls for a little bit. And then that's what she did. She came home and she like played with her dolls and colored. And then she was like rejuvenated and refreshed kind of thing. And I have caught her on numerous occasions doing things like, for example, EFT tapping is one of the tools that I use for like emotional regulation. And I've caught her in her room, sitting down, cross-legged, and doing little tappings when she's feeling like overwhelmed and things like that. And it is just so heartwarming to see them mimic us in these good ways. Because just like for me, like I grew up in an extremely traumatic environment, lots of violence, lots of abuse. That's what I mimicked. Right. And so that was like my default setting. And this is the work that I can continuously do, is learn to like unlearn all of that. Right. And then learn these healthy patterns and learn these healthy tools and all of that kind of stuff. And then while I'm doing that, I'm showing my children how to do the same. And to see them actually model that afterwards, it's just something that it warms my heart. And it tells me like, okay, I know I'm not a perfect mom, but I know I'm doing something right when they're learning how to name their feelings, what to do with them, and how healthy outlets of being able to re-energize, all of that kind of stuff, right? And yeah, it's incredible work for sure.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that your kids are doing that and picking that up because, like I said, how different would our world be if our children and even adults knew how to do this, right? And be accountable for their energy. And as we start to finish our time together, I know Sophie is going to jump back on soon. If there's one practice or one takeaway that people can take from today, what would it be? Abby, I'm going to start with you because you're already unmuted.
Yeah, again, when we're thinking about protecting our energy, it's not about closing ourselves off to the world. And this was mentioned throughout our discussion today, it's really about becoming more available to your truth, right? And then from that place, everything that you give is clean, it's aligned, and it's powerful. And so it's really, yeah, it's like a domino effect, right? And so learning to protect our energy is so good for so many different ways. And so hopefully there was some valuable tools that you can take away from our discussion today that you can directly apply in your life.
Beautiful. Thank you, Abby. And Sallyann, I saw you were unmuted as well.
I love all these things that are coming forward. It's really wonderful. And I think when something comes up, noticing it, acknowledging it, and then do what you need to do to move that out because you don't want that disharmony going into the body. And I think as well as that, also creating a toolbox of things that are helpful and supportive to you. And I know I'm going to be adding into my toolbox, be where your feet are. I really like that. That's something I will add into my toolbox because it's so important to be here and now in the moment and not be in the past or the future, but be in that moment because that's where the power is. But I think create an ongoing, continually evolving toolbox of things that bring joy into your life, things that bring harmony in your life, things that you can go to top up your energy when you're feeling down like the beach or lying on the ground, whatever, or going to movie or whatever that bring you joy. So I think having a list or a toolbox of things that are helpful to you, and everybody's toolbox will be different, and have that accessible. Put it on the fridge or somewhere where when you're feeling overwhelmed, okay, even if you have it in columns, okay, this is what I need to do when my energy feeling depleted. This is what I need to do when I feel overwhelmed. This is what I need to do when I'm feeling sad and enjoying my life. And reference that regularly and just keep topping, like giving yourself more of that oxygen, topping yourself up regularly. I think would be a very good tool to have. Thank you.
Beautiful. Bron, is there a tool that or a parting statement you would like to leave?
I've just been taking a few notes, ladies, and I think what I loved were two things. One was about calling back energy at the end of the day, but also the discernment. That word came up from a couple of you guys, and discernment of that and is just so powerful and so simple. And then obviously what you've just said, Sallyann, with literally having something on the fridge to remind you, especially for someone who's been nuked with chemo and treatment. Sweet. I love that idea to have just that small visual reminder to be able to take that moment of what do we call it? Self-full moment. And yeah, that's like really cool, guys. I think that to me was what stood out for me, which was obviously what I needed to hear today. So thank you.
Beautiful. And thank you for bringing your energy, Bron. I love it. Thank you. And Rollie, is there something that you would like to leave as parting words or a practice for people to do?
So for me, for sure, is making sure that you're finding those things or that one thing that allows you to be able to reground, reconnect, and rekindle. And these three babies are definitely it for me. And so being able to have those opportunities. So today was a super crazy day, but tomorrow morning I get to get up with all three babies, let mom sleep in, and I get to go and have breakfast with them and do my thing with them in the morning before mom gets up. And so for me, that is, as a grandmother, that is something that I love being able to have that opportunity to be able to do. And I take advantage of that as often as I can when there's no other adults around, because then we can just really have that connection and allows me to really just be able to tune in, because they really are. My kids were little, my kids are my life. And so now when I step into that role of grandmother, is I didn't know that I could actually love a human as much as I had loved my children, or more than I had loved my children. There's just a different energy that comes with being with my grandchildren. And for me, that is it. But for whatever it is that is for whoever it is for you, is what's that one thing that can help really bring you back into your being, into yourself, and really have you connect to your true self.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what about you, Catherine?
About me, I think it's trust yourself, trust what works for you. And we shared so many things today, but it's trust what your inner authority, what your intuition is telling you, what your gut, what your heart, because so often we get overwhelmed with what everyone else is doing. And it's about coming back to you, because only you know what your energy feels like when it's the green or when it's the red or when it's the yellow. You are the one that can come back and go, okay, something doesn't feel right. And having that executive committee or all those people around you can be such a beautiful thing. Use your discernment, use your connections, fill up your joy cup, and see how that then shifts your energy. And if you are still stuck, reach out to people for support. We're not meant to do this alone. We are meant to find those people that we trust so that we can protect our energy and deflect what isn't ours.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for facilitating a wonderful wisdom circle. It's been incredible. I've been able to listen to some of it in the background, and I'm certainly going to be listening to the replay. For anyone out there who is watching live or watches a replay, do take notes and click on the links below and reach out to these amazing women who just spent an hour of their time sharing some wonderful tips to really being able to protect our energy and to recharge. And I love it. I think it was Bron going out, laying on the grass. Totally get that. Totally, absolutely.
Sallyann.
Sorry, Sallyann. Nature is an incredible protector and recharger of energy. Thoroughly agree. And everything else that they've said. So thank you. And of course, for anyone who is watching, do come and check out Sacred You. While you're there, it's just sacredyou.love. Come and join us in the village. We have so many things on offer, including some wonderful more wisdom circles that are coming up very soon. Click on the links to find out more. So want to honor everyone. Catherine, for an incredible first wisdom circle that you're facilitating. Rollie and Abby for turning up from the other side of the world. Don't know what time it is for you. And of course, Sallyann and Bron here in today. So thank you ever so much for being here. It's appreciated.